Okay, so in case you didn't notice, I'm jumping in the middle of this previous video that I produced I had to change gears. I'll just put it that way. And it's been, this video is actually, I started back in July. But what I wanted to do originally was go out and make an original photograph and go over it and dissect it. I haven't had time to do that. That's not unusual for me. I have a lot of things I'd love to do, but I just have so many other responsibilities. I kind of have to take care of them first. So yes, I'm a hobbyist photographer. I'm not a photographer by trade by any means at all. So yeah, I just made another switch. Lighting, oh, you gotta love it, right? And reflections and all that noise and all those issues that come with it. So anyway, I had to change gears, and I'm just going to go over some work that I've made in the past. And I was looking for some work that I realized again, it's like I forgot all about this. I lost a couple of drives back in 2000, whenever. But that was some major work that I made when I was building up these techniques. And those things are lost until I can get those things back. But I do have some pieces here that I do want to show you that I have made and I do have up on my SmugMug site and that sort of thing. And this will kind of show the progression of how to make this technique part of your skill stack, where you're putting light in places where visually it looks great, but you start thinking, but that can't work that way. Something is going on here, and there's something just very cool about it. So let's go ahead and get into this file here, and I will bring up the photographs, and you can just look at them as I go through them. So in this first shot, and I think in these first technology, I love it. Well, this really isn't what I wanted to happen for me. When I close this, I'll just open it up in a different format. But it's opened up in Infinity. And what you can see in this first photograph is a very simple way of doing what I'm talking about. You can see at the bottom, it's darkest, and you can see that there's light behind it because the sun has gone down. So on the bottom quarter of the frame is its darkest source. And then the next frame, same thing, and it's just the same view, actually. So this is the most basic, simplest way of explaining this. And you can see that there's a light source behind each frame, and then when you get to the top, it's brightest. Now, when I typically would practice this, I wouldn't do this necessarily. I would look at different sources and choose that and at different angles and that sort of thing. That is typically what I would do. So let's bring up this. Let's bring up these next ones, and we're just going to scroll through these pretty quick, and I'll give you a quick overview of my thinking. What was I doing exactly? What did I want to accomplish? And that sort of thing. And for the most part, I'm really just being driven by emotion, and you know, everything is kind of a spur of the moment thing. I see something that I think looks good and I think will look good on the frame, and that's what I make. And that's basically it. And it's based on experience. You know, when you've done this for years and years and years, you get to that point where you come to understand, what do I think is going to look great? Okay, on this next one, it's pretty simple. It's 2 frames. You can see that I shot a frame at the upper 2/3, which shows the sun behind the hill. And then in the bottom was in another spot where the sun wasn't. Actually, this was right, now that I'm thinking about it, this shot was immediate. That first frame, I don't remember which one was first, but I'm going to assume that bottom part was the first frame. Maybe it wasn't, I don't know. But that is the sun actually starting to go down behind the hill. Then I just moved over and likely made a wider view of it. Now, do I think this is a great shot? Nah, it's okay. You know, it's cool kind of looking, but it's not all that compelling. So you can see it's two shots, and I'm moving the sun into the center or to the bottom center of that first frame of this darkness. So this is what I'm talking about, understanding light values and where you can place these different sources of light in multiple exposure framing. So that's what I did there. Here's another simple one, right? And these are very cool colors mixed in with very the warmth of the red of the sun going down behind the clouds. And again, you can see what happens here. There's the bottom framing, the bottom photograph had all of the sky above, but once I put something over it, the brightness just overtook the dark area. And this is something to think about because it's just very cool to think about. It's very cool to think about what you might be able to do. Now in this frame, you can see this next frame, there are 3 layers. That first layer was just this mountaintop, right? It's just this mountaintop. And then I pointed my camera at a very bright source of light, and you can see that there's reeds and trees and stuff, but there's a very bright source of light there. And then it was a long exposure. Okay, first one is a static, and then in the middle I'm going to put the source of light, but I use a very intentional camera movement, sort of a U shape, to make this grand sort of. I'm really looking at this, go, why haven't I developed this more? I like this work, and it's really cool looking because now you have this source of light in the middle of this mountain range that doesn't look right. It's just like, wait a minute, my mind is telling me it looks cool, but this can't be real. And then there was obviously these very strong, this is the last shot that I made at the bottom, some strong reflections coming off the water, but you dial it back so that your exposure is less than the other two, right? And you're just getting those highlights and you're crushing your blacks. And there's a little tiny coot right in the middle of that. And maybe that's why I'm looking at it now. Maybe that's why I didn't want to develop it, because you move forward with this too much, because that coot is really not well defined. I think it is because I was there. So this is just another one. I've got 2 static shots, and in the middle, I've got an intentional camera movement. So that's how I stack that one. Let's go on to the next one. This one is 10 layers, and they're all static. And you can see what I did, and it's very noisy, and there's still a lot of things I would need to clean up for it if I wanted to print it. But check it out. This to me is just pretty cool. There's some things about it that I don't like, but I think it's lovely. But more than that, it makes me think about the possibilities of these things. So you can see I made 9 frames, static shots of these mountains, looking at different parts of it, zooming in and out and doing that. And then at the last one, there happened to be a sycamore tree or maybe liquid amber or something. And I just put that silhouette over the top of everything. Now, I really like this piece. This is one that some of these I think are in my Smug Mug site, and some of them are not. So on this next shot, this is very much wow. This is like 2016 when I was using Panasonic quite a bit, and it's all over the map. I like it. There's some things about it that I don't like. The ghosting I don't like too much. Ghosting, it can be done well, and then other times it just hurts your eyes. And this is something that experimental photographers like to ignore, and they don't understand why people don't like their work. Well, if it hurts your eyes, people don't want to look at it. And for that reason, I haven't moved too far forward with this one. Okay, in this one, there are a minimum of 1, 2, 3, 4 different layers. When I was doing a lot of these, I was moving with 4 layers at a time. And this one you can see with the moon to the upper right was probably the last thing that I did. And you can see again this reflection behind this moon, and that is actually from the last shot that I made, and I'll tell you why. But first, I did this middle shot where there was sun behind the mountains, and I did an intentional camera movement to give it that sort of mystic aura, if you will, kind of a mysterious look to it. And then but because I left the bottom part of that frame in black, the values of exposure were still very low, and I found a little coot down there below, and I made a shot of him, and you can see that the black still crushed what little bit of highlights were coming off the lake at the time, but up in the sky there are some of those highlights. I really do like that one a lot. On this next one, same sort of thing. These are all static. I remember having to develop this one. You can see some trees in the center. I really had to bring this back. And I'm just going to run through these really quick. Static, and you can see there's probably some camera movement in there. This one was probably 1, 2, 3, 4, probably 6 or 7 frames at least. And then I got a static shot of those trees, but I really had to edit them in order to bring them back. Okay, here's a very simple one. This one, well, there's some, for some reason, when I go to reload these up, they're not coming out correct. Affinity is kind of, I don't know if it's Affinity or my computer, but this is a simple 3-frame photograph. And if you don't look at what Affinity messed up, you can see it's nice and simple and looks cool. This is the type of work I would suggest if you're looking to do this, try this type first. Now this one, again, with the same theme. All of these, when I loaded these up, I wanted this same kind of theme because that is what helped me grow. You can see a static shot. These are all two. I would say this is probably three layers. The moon I probably got last. But first I got this first layer at the horizon. The sun is behind it. And then I got this coot to put in front of it because, again, I'm playing with exposure values, with light values. That exposure with the coot in it is very strong. I could put it in front of that black and it'll just take over everything. And then lastly, I took a shot of the moon. And this is just something similar, again, with this coot. Okay, again, same sort of system. However, you can see that in that middle shot, it's a long exposure, intentional camera movement. And these are things that you want to think about. You want to practice your intentional camera movement because how do you know if you want to put it in this kind of framing or not? Again, same sort of thing. Camera movement, a little coot, and a moon. And again, okay, you see the theme going on here. Some of these, like I love this one, the 1406. Just because of what happened with everything. Those are all static shots. And here's one probably from the same day, only I tried a little camera movement. Then here's something without the coot. It has more to do with what I used to shoot as well, was murmurations of starlings and blackbirds. And you can see I've got 1, 2, 3 shots of the mountains. Then I've got a intentional camera movement on the on the sky because it's all weird looking. And then I waited for the murmuration to happen, and then I shot it. That might have taken 10 or 15 minutes before it happened, but I had to keep making sure that Nikon didn't develop my photograph after 30 seconds because it happened to do that. And okay, on this next one is basically red and blue sort of static shot. Looks like I did four layers on that. Okay, again on this next one with a coot, looks okay. You know, it looks all right. And it's not that I think everything looks fantastic. This is helping me build my technique. And again, same sort of thing. Bottom with the coot, middle with the static shot of the horizon, and then I shot the moon. And then Nikon just develops it. It just spits out this image. Nowadays it spits out JPEG. In the old days it would give you a RAW file, which I appreciated so much more. I mean, you can save all of your photographs now in RAW, but I don't want to develop it. Let the camera do it. I always liked what the camera did. Here's one of my favorites, just because of the dreaminess of it, in 6345. Again, it was 6375. These are all pretty much the same day. You can see what happens with all of this. It's just awesome way of doing it. Let me just finish scrolling through here. This is one of my favorites, 7735. 7735. Now you can see in the background there are what appears to be mountains and sky, but then at the same time you can see the water reflection. It just works out so well. And this one, this is the one that I actually printed, and I've made several prints, and we actually have this hanging in our house. Just because you can see there's a camera, there's two static of the mountain range. There is a camera movement to make this swirl, and then this little coot. And it just, for me, turned out excellent. I love the way this looks. I love the dreaminess of it, and I love this color palette. And I just happened upon that accidentally. I remember when I was editing it years ago. Okay, so we're just going to breeze through the rest of these. Pretty much the same in all of these. The concept is the same. Remember your light values and how that's going to work. Okay, thank you for listening, and hope to see you soon.